Right now, somewhere in your mind, there's a conversation happening. A conversation with someone who isn't there, about something that hasn't happened yet, and your brain is treating it like it's real. That's not a glitch, that's not weakness, that's overthinking. And today, we're going to break down exactly why your brain does it, what it's actually costing you, and 3 psychological tools that actually make it stop. Let's start with what overthinking actually is, because most people confuse it with something else. Overthinking is not deep thinking. Deep thinking is productive. It leads somewhere. Overthinking leads in circles. You start with one worry, and 30 minutes later, you're somehow thinking about something embarrassing you said in 2014. Psychologists define it as the tendency to engage in repetitive, prolonged thinking about problems or situations without reaching resolution. The key word is repetitive. Your brain isn't solving anything, it's rehearsing the same thought over and over, slightly differently each time, but never resolving. There are 2 main forms. The first is rumination, living in the past, replaying conversations, analyzing what you said, what you should have said, what they really meant by that look they gave you. The second is worry, living in the future, imagining what could go wrong, preparing for every possible scenario, running mental simulations of disasters that may never happen. Most overthinkers do both, bouncing between regret and dread, rarely in the present. And here's the cruel irony. The more you try to think your way to certainty, the more uncertain you feel. Because the brain that overthinks is the brain that never rests. So why does your brain do this? Here's something that might actually make you feel better. Overthinking is not a flaw. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that your brain is working exactly as it was designed, just in the wrong century. Thousands of years ago, the humans who survived were the ones who anticipated threats, who replayed dangerous situations to learn from them, who worried about tomorrow so they could prepare for it. If your ancestor heard a rustling in the bushes, the one who overthought it, was that a predator? Should I run? What if there are more? That ancestor survived. The one who didn't overthink it often didn't. That hyper-vigilant, threat-scanning brain got passed down to you. The problem is, your brain didn't get the memo that you are no longer being hunted. It still treats a difficult email from your boss the same way it would treat a predator. Neuroscience gives this a name, the default mode network, a set of interconnected brain regions that activate whenever you're not focused on a specific task. When you're waiting, resting, commuting, lying in bed at night. A landmark study from Harvard found that this network is active for approximately 47% of our waking hours. Nearly half your life is spent in a mental state that, for overthinkers, becomes a breeding ground for anxiety. And here's what makes it dangerous. The more you overthink, the stronger these neural pathways become. Your brain is literally rewiring itself to overthink more efficiently. Like a path through a forest, the more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. So what does overthinking actually cost you? More than most people realize. A landmark 2013 study by Susan Nolan Hoeksema at Yale, one of the world's leading researchers on rumination, found that chronic overthinkers are significantly more likely to develop depression and anxiety disorders. Not because they're weak, but because sustained rumination physically changes the brain. Here's how. Every time you overthink, your body releases cortisol, the stress hormone. In small doses, cortisol is helpful. It sharpens focus. It prepares you for action. But when cortisol stays chronically elevated, when your brain can't tell the difference between thinking about a problem and actually facing it, the damage accumulates. Chronic cortisol impairs memory. It weakens the immune system. And, perhaps most importantly, it shrinks the hippocampus, part of your brain responsible for emotional regulation and learning. The more you overthink, the harder it becomes to regulate your emotions, which makes you more likely to overthink, which shrinks the hippocampus further. It's a loop, and it tightens over time. There's another cost that doesn't get talked about enough: decision paralysis. Psychologists call it analysis paralysis, when the sheer volume of thoughts, scenarios, and possibilities makes it impossible to choose. You've probably felt it. You need to send one email, and 2 hours later you're still rewriting the opening line. And here's what the research actually shows. Overthinkers, despite spending more time on decisions, often make worse ones, because by the time they finally decide, they're mentally exhausted, emotionally depleted, and operating on empty. The quality of a decision is not just about the information you have. It's about the mental state you're in when you make it. So how do you actually stop? Here are 3 techniques, each backed by psychology, that work on different levels. Technique 1. Scheduled worry time. This comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, and it sounds almost too simple. Every day, choose a 15-minute window, say 5 p.m. That is your designated time to worry. When an anxious thought enters your mind outside of that window, you don't fight it. You don't push it away. You simply say, "Not now," at 5 p.m. This works because you are not suppressing the thought. Suppression backfires. Research consistently shows that trying not to think about something makes you think about it more. Instead, you're postponing it. And by 5 p.m., most worries have either resolved themselves or revealed themselves as far less urgent than they felt at 10 a.m. Technique 2. The fact or fear question. This one interrupts the spiral in real time. When a thought begins to loop, pause and ask yourself one question. Is this a fact, or is this a fear? Facts are verifiable. They exist right now in the present. Fears are narratives, stories your brain generates about a future that hasn't happened. Most overthinking is fear dressed up as logic. It feels rational. It feels important. But when you hold it up to the light and ask, is this actually real right now? Most of the time, the answer is no. That single question interrupts the brain's alarm system. Not immediately, not perfectly, but consistently. Technique 3. Physical pattern interrupt. This one targets the body, not just the mind. Overthinking is not only a mental problem. When you're stuck in a loop, your body is in a low-grade stress response. Cortisol is elevated, breathing is shallow, muscles are tense. The fastest way to break the loop is a physical state change. Stand up, walk, do 10 jumping jacks, splash cold water on your face. It sounds almost too simple, but the neuroscience is clear. Physical movement shifts your brain from the default mode network, the overthinking state, to the task positive network. These 2 networks are mutually inhibitory. When one is active, the other isn't. You cannot overthink and move your body at the same time. It is physiologically impossible. Overthinking is not who you are. It's a pattern your brain learned, and patterns can be unlearned. Start with one technique. Use it today. Your brain doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be redirected. If this helped, subscribe and drop a comment. Which technique are you trying first?